We may have some technical issues when we move to a different venue, but it is the 16th of December, 2024. This is a regular business meeting of the Billings City Council. I'll just remind members of the City Council that the audio comes into the microphone out of the little pizza box here. So be sure to speak up, and when we have time for public comment, we'll ask you to speak loudly so that people online or watching at home can be sure to hear you. If you would, though, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is back in the corner there. And then Councilmember Gulick is on, or Councilmember Shaw is on? Councilmember Gulick is on for invocation. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Creator, or by whatever name we invoke that animates, motivates, and comforts us. In this holiday season, we have been reminded to reflect on our lives, recognize the blessings and bounty we have been granted, and give thanksgiving. We are grateful for this beautiful section of River Valley and its handsome rimrocks and dramatic skyscapes that we are fortunate to call home. We give thanks for our hardworking city staff, ensuring that clean water flows to our buildings, our streets are safe to use, and that our finances and decision-making infrastructure are well ordered, among many, many other services. We give thanks to our public safety staff who exhibit such care and compassion for our residents, even as they put their lives on the line day after day. This is also a season of hope, peace, love, and joy. Through all the busyness of the end of the year, may we be mindful that these gifts do not come forth into the world by themselves. We must bring them forth. May we all be instruments of hope, peace, love, and joy. In your name, we give humble thanks. Amen.
Amen. Denise, would you please call the roll?
Shaw.
Here.
Gulick.
Here.
Neese.
Present.
Owen.
Here.
Joy.
Present.
Kennedy.
Here.
Aspenleiter.
Here.
Tidswell.
Here.
Boyette.
Here.
Repsis.
Here.
Mayor Cole.
Here. I'll apologize to members of the public. We did get a bit of a late start this evening. We apologize. We were in executive session, so that's the reason the council is a few minutes behind. We'll move on. We don't have any minutes before us. I'll ask for council courtesies in just a second, but before I do that, I would like to start by telling some sad news that many in the room are already aware of, but some may not be too. Early this evening, our executive director of the Western Heritage Center and incredible community asset and engaging individual and a good friend, Kevin Koistra, died from an unexpected heart attack. And our thoughts, prayers, and appreciation go out to his two daughters, and it is truly a community that will miss Kevin. So on that sad news, I do want to invite other council members, if they have other announcements or things that they would like to bring to our attention, this is your opportunity. Are there any courtesies by members of the council? Seeing none, we do have a proclamation today in recognition of Homeless Persons Memorial Day, and the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the winter poses extreme hardship for unsheltered and inadequately housed low-income men, women, and children in Yellowstone County, and whereas the spirit of the holiday season of giving provides an opportunity for affirmation and renewal regarding our commitment to end homelessness. And whereas December 21st has been designated National Homeless Persons Memorial Day by the National Coalition for the Health Care for the Homeless Council and is so recognized nationwide. And whereas Riverstone Health helps homeless persons gain access to health care through their services and organizes the Billings Homeless Memorial each year to honor and remember those who have died homeless in Yellowstone County and to prevent future homeless deaths by raising awareness about fundamental solutions to homelessness. And whereas in remembering those who have died on the streets, the cause of ending homelessness is kept urgent, as in the county's collective commitment to preventing such deaths in the future. Now, therefore, I, William Cole, Mayor of the City of Billings, do hereby proclaim December 20, 2024 as Homeless Persons Memorial Day in Billings, and ask all citizens to take a moment of silence to remember those who have died homeless, and encourage our citizens to support all local efforts to eliminate homelessness in our communities. And I'll just I will remind the community that at 12:15 this Friday, December 20th, there will be a vigil in recognition of those who have died homeless. On the vigil will take place on the courthouse lawn. With that, council reports. Any reports from council members about organizations that you serve on behalf of the council? Councilmember Neese is with us online. Councilmember Neese, go ahead.
Thank you. The audio was muted until just now. Whoever unmuted it, thank you very much.
Thank you. If somebody sees Councilmember Neese's hand up, please alert me, or Councilmember Neese. If we don't see you, please feel free to speak up.
Yeah. So if there was something between now and the time when we sat down after the prayer, I don't know what happened.
That's okay. We will not go back to repeat those, but I don't think you missed anything too substantive.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other council reports? Don't see any. City Administrator report. Chris.
Yeah, just a handful of things. First, as you're well aware, this is our last meeting of 2024. So reminder that our next meeting will be January 6th in 2025 in this same location. So though there are now, there's one department functioning out of the new City Hall, that being the building division, and moving has been happening over the past couple of weeks and will continue to, having all the technology, making sure everything is functioning, tied to live broadcast, streaming, etc. That's going to take a few more weeks, and so we expect throughout the month of January to be in this room, in this space. I think I covered that second one. Third is a brief update on where we are relative to the utility audit. Had a conversation with SL Serco. They're the firm out of Minnesota that's conducting the audit. First, part of that work is to do a data analysis of all roughly 37,000 residential files and do 2 billing periods before the software conversion and 2 billing periods after the software conversion, and where they stand today. So whatever the math is on that times 4, because they're doing that across that, they're about 45% through that work right now. The actual meters, that being the water meter, the hardware in the homes, all of those that are were randomly selected to be taken out and swapped out to be sent off to a third party and analyzed for their accuracy. All of those are out, and all of those are being packaged up to be sent to that third party. That's going to be our most time-consuming piece of this. They do expect to still be on target for that January deadline. I think it's January 30th is when this contract is to be fully fulfilled. So that really gets to my third issue there, which is later, you tell me if there's a strong preference whether that meeting with SL Serco should be in a work session in January or a regular meeting in January. But we are preparing for, frankly, the last work session and or the last meeting, that one of those two, that we hit that, provided first and foremost that they're totally prepared to have that conversation. That's been the emphasis there. And then lastly is just a reminder, if you will. The issues of late have primarily, for our customers, has been, didn't I just get a bill 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? They're going to get another bill. The next round goes out tomorrow. So I ask first and foremost that people look at that service date, because the service date of the bill grouping going that starts tomorrow, and about every 5 days or so the next group of the city goes, is starting with November the 7th through December the 7th. Now that's just cycle 2 because I know cycle 2. That's what I happen to be in. But when you look at those service dates, you're going to find that now we're finally billing primarily for use in the month of November and early December, and that we're fully on a 30-day cycle or 1-month cycle here. No alterations as to solid waste being a different time period than water or sewer. So those things, people will start to see them later this week as we go this next round. So data audit about 45% done and all analysis across that system. All meters have been swapped out. We saw that in the media last week. We had some media go along with folks doing that job. Fully expecting in January that they will meet the timeline, look at a work session or a regular meeting, and we'll be talking to the media more this week as well about why are people getting bills, seemingly 3 bills in about 6 weeks for some. Please look at the fact that that may be 3 of 6 bills that you've gotten over a 7-month period, or 8-month period. So with that, no ex parte communication to pass on from this afternoon.
Thank you very much. Councilor Kenny?
Chris, I had asked you earlier today, would you just say it so everyone knows there is no late fees and no...
Absolutely no late fees, no turnoffs. That will only come when this is all cleared out and you guys are part of when that will be reinstituted. I would just, what we have been asking customers to do, if they still don't have confidence in what their bill is, please pay what they think it should be, because I think the worst case people can get themselves into, frankly, is not paying any bill for 3, 4, 5, 6 months and then facing that catch up in the end. So no, you're correct, no late fees, no turnoffs during this time, and that will not be brought back in some kind of short-term basis. That will give a runway to work with folks to get caught back up once they're confident that, hey, what they've got is their bill is an accurate reflection of their usage.
Very good, thank you very much. Our next item up then is our public comment on non-public hearing items. This evening, that is everything that's on our agenda, because there will not be a public hearing on any of the items later. So if you'd like to be heard on anything that's on our agenda, we just ask that you go to the podium. Sorry, it's kind of in the corner down there. Feel free to make a little line so we know who would like to comment. Just ask that you tell us who you are and an address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Mayor, council members, Steve Arbiscal from West Billings. I just wanted to say a couple of things. First, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I've left you some treats there. I'm sensing that some of you might need to be sweetened up a little bit. So I wanted to share that with you, and honestly just say thank you for a year of hard work and accomplishments on behalf of the community, and I appreciate your service. I understand there were some questions at last council meeting, and I followed a series of emails and communications around who's doing what in the world of economic development. Now, I could, at your request, absolutely come to a council meeting and give you a quick little update. But in 10 minutes, it's going to be hard to give you that picture. So I'd like to propose something to you for your consideration. I'd love to host a working lunch with you and just do Economic Development 201. So I think you're all past the 101, and just give you a good sense of the work that Big Sky Economic Development does, starting really from who we are, how we're structured, what we do, where our funding comes from, how we invest that funding, and what programs, what does that program delivery look like. And I think that takes a little bit more time than coming to a council work session. I'm happy to host that as a working lunch at our place, and I'm happy to work with Chris on a schedule that makes sense. We could do a breakfast too. We usually hold meetings bright and early, 7 o'clock in the morning, to allow you to come in and get that work done and then go on about your business. I'd like to extend that invitation. If you think it makes sense, I think that'd be a good way to give you a comprehensive view of economic development, how it works, what we do and don't do, and then field questions, which I think that dialogue would be very valuable. So like to extend that to you if you think it makes sense.
Very good, thank you, Steve. Next.
Christy Drake, 2950 Walden Place, on behalf of Billings TrailNet. First, I just want to say that it's been a tearful day. Kevin Koistra was a good friend, and handing out hugs for anybody else who wants to share in our grief. It's hard. The second thing is I was delighted to see that the on the consent agenda is the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Recreational Trails Program grant. That's actually a grant that Billings TrailNet wrote, submitted, and were awarded for $100,000. It's because I had I used to live out on the West End, and I would ride that trail all the time to get into downtown, and I noticed that there were cracks going across the entire trail. And when we looked further into it, there's the Springs at Grant is a senior citizens community, and also there's an apartment building for people who have disabilities, many of whom are in wheelchairs, right on the other side of that ditch, where there's a bridge going over the Arnold Drain. And so we worked with the Parks Department and wrote the grant, and I'm just delighted to say that we're working hard at trying to help with trail maintenance and seeing that these things are actually being done. So, thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you for your work on that for improving maintenance of city facilities.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Dan Brooks with the Billings Chamber. Tonight, also wearing the hat of Visit Billings. We are at 815 South 27th Street. I did not bring you treats, and because I've already been threatened by one council member, because of it, I will be very, very brief. We want to toss in our support for agenda item number 3, the MOU between the city and Yellowstone Ice Foundation. We have been supportive of this plan, this concept here for quite some time. I understand from the private side that they are happy with the MOU draft as is. I hope you will be content as well, so we can take that next step in moving this really mutually beneficial project forward together. So encourage your support. Thank you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Festivus if you celebrate, and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, Tom McLean, 2702 Montana Avenue. I serve on the Parks Board. I'm the current chair. I'm here to speak in favor of both items 2 and 3, the contract with A&E and the Yellowstone Ice Foundation project. I think they're both incredible opportunities for the city of Billings. They're something that's been thought through by a lot of you, a lot of people in our community, and I think they're ready to go. Let's move forward with these. Specifically to the A&E contract, I served on the committee that reviewed those. There were 3 very, very capable firms that put in for that. Any one of the 3 would do very, very well with that contract, but I think A&E was chosen for a reason. So I'd also like to, while I'm up here, I've got 2 minutes left, I'm not going to use it all, but I'd like to say thank you to Mike Pigg. He's been a great resource at the parks. In the 6 years that I've been on the Parks Board, he's incredible. He's very resourceful. He's very communicative. He's always there with an answer. He's always looking for answers, and I think you guys have seen that too. So I'm going to miss him. I'm glad he's going to at least stay till March 15th. But thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'm Parker Phipps. I'm president of Yellowstone Ice Foundation and also president and CEO of Signal Peak Energy. And Signal Peak Energy's made the initial $6 million donation, or I should say $6 million commitment to Yellowstone Ice Foundation. I'd like to thank Gina for her efforts in working with our council to get the MOU to this point. Yellowstone Ice Foundation fully supports this MOU as a critical step of moving forward with a lease between Yellowstone Ice Foundation and the city. Collaborative design was selected by Yellowstone Ice Foundation, and they've currently completed about 75% of the design work, so we're well on our way to being able to submit for a building permit, and then A&E is also making good progress on the site development plan. There's two main reasons why we think timing is important. One is anybody that's been involved in the ice community in Billings knows that this is 20 years overdue, so we need to move. The second reason is Signal Peak already made the first $3 million donation, but the second $3 million donation is pending when we break ground. And we're in the commodities business, and you guys have seen what's happened with Stillwater. Signal Peak's in the energy business, so we're in a different cycle. Right now, commodity prices are good and firm. Feel very comfortable that we're going to make this second $3 million donation, but when markets swing, they swing fast, and we want to take advantage of this money that Signal Peak has available. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to Signal Peak and to you, Parker, for your efforts there. Thank you.
Mark Snyder, and I'm nobody. Got a couple of questions here. Does the city, by the way, Chris, thanks for the water update. Good. Does the police department have a PIO, public information officer? Yes or no?
Mark, we'll get back to you with more details on that. At this time, we don't get into that, kind of that dialogue back and forth. I apologize for that. I can just quickly say there's people who, we don't have a PIO in the police department per se.
Yeah, being retired law enforcement myself, I'm seeing some things here, and this is not directed at line officers. The people I've talked to on the line are fantastic people, but I've got concerns. The first one, where you've got Fourth Amendment issues, I know it's been on the news, I'm not hearing hardly anything. Having worked with litigation on this stuff, it can get extremely expensive to us, the taxpayers. The machete shooting, when the guy was shot on the ground, nothing other than what we saw on Q2. Very concerning. Having taught at a large police academy, tactics and firearms, got some real issues with that. Again, all we're getting is from Q2 from what I've seen. Nothing as far as real information from PD. On Broadwater, the DUI stop, as far as I know, driving under the influence. Complete SWAT call out with snipers on the roof, tanks, people all over the place. I got a bunch of questions about it. It might be good to establish a PIO and get some information out to the public because it doesn't look good.
Thank you very much. And I don't want people to misinterpret what I said. There's nobody in the police department with that title, but we do have officers involved with public information for sure. That is a major part of their job. Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Any other public comment before we close the public comment period? No one is walking forward, so we will close the public comment period and move on to our agenda. The first item up is our consent agenda. Are there any separations? Scott. Any separations from the consent agenda? If not, do we have a motion relating to the consent agenda? Councilmember Boyette?
Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda as written with no exceptions.
Very good. Second by Councilmember Ripsis. Any discussion on the motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Mayor, I have a question.
Councilmember Neese has his little yellow hand up, so Councilmember Neese, go ahead.
Thank you. Chris, the memo on item D, which is the bus fund, it mentioned that any excess would go into cash reserves. But if I understand that, but that's public safety funds. Isn't that money kind of utilized for public safety, or is it? I know the public safety is in the general fund. So is this really just going to the general fund reserves to be used for anything? For instance, if it needs to, we need to do something at a park, and we have money in reserves, it's going to be used for that, marked for public safety.
So Mayor and Council, Councilmember Neese, so any revenues that come into the general fund that are higher than what the anticipation was in the budget and/or expenditures that aren't spent that were appropriated in the budget are going to end up in the reserves of the general fund, and that's how this works. So though you see through the budgetary process and because of our charter, you see our public safety levies specifically that the voters have approved, that in and of itself doesn't completely separate public safety from the general fund. The general fund still makes a multi-million-dollar contribution every year towards funding the full cost of those departments. So without this body agreeing to appropriate funds beyond what were in the budget, then it cannot be spent and stays then in the reserve for the following year's decisions. Am I answering your question?
I think you answered it for this particular item, but you brought up something just to make sure I understood what you said. The mill levies that we appropriate for public safety, those do not go into the general fund if there's an excess, because those are designated by the voters, the charter, to be used for public safety. Did I understand that correctly?
So yes, to be clear, every cent collected through the, I believe, 3 public safety levies over the decades is spent on police and fire and public safety services as defined by those levies that the voters approved. In addition to that, some $10+ million, I think it's closer to 20 million, in addition to that goes in from the general fund. So there's not a scenario where public safety funds are ever not used and end up in the general fund reserve that they could be used for parks or something else. They're spending all of that plus tens of millions more annually.
Okay, I understand. So this is stating that if there's an excess, it goes into the general fund, and so it gives the authority for that to be utilized for anything under the general fund category. And it's written in the contract, so that means we can't change this for 5 more years, if I understand that correctly. But my preference would have been to see this utilized for public safety, not just to go in the general fund. And it's probably too late to change this contract now, but I would like to see this, and maybe we can amend the contract to have it only read it's utilized for public safety. And in this case, it's really the fire department itself, and that reserve, if there is an excess in a reserve, it should be utilized for the fire department.
Okay, Councilmember Neese, Finance Director Andy Zeller, you would not have been able to see him, but he has walked to the podium, which, because I'm so perceptive, makes me think that he wants to say something. So I'm going to let him comment on this topic. So Andy, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Mayor, Councilmember Neese. So as Chris was saying, the transfer to the Public Safety Fund is like $24 million for FY25. FY25 budget envisioned this BUFSA payment using the same formula we've been using, including the one that's in this formula, being about 2.3 million. Because it's calculated before year end, it's actually going to be closer to 2.6. There's no budgetary authority to spend that excess, so by default, it just goes into the reserve. It reduces that transfer amount. If we wanted to bring a budget amendment forward to adjust that, that could occur, but right now, we're not recommending that. There's nothing in the contract that says an annual amount will go into reserve. The contract specifies the funding formula, and then each year we, at budget time, we make an estimate on what that would be, and then we calculate it based upon the actual expenses though each year.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought the MOU actually stated in there that it said so it would be part of the contract that it actually goes to the general fund. That was my concern about that. But if there's nothing I don't think there's anything we do about this time. But I just bring it to your attention that we want to make sure that it's really earmarked more for the fire department, because that's what this agreement's about. But thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on. Was there something else on this item?
Yes, can I just clarify one context issue, because I think it fits with maybe how someone might interpret. Andy, sorry to put you on the spot. Of public safety, the fire department's annual budget's approximately.
I want to say about 25 million.
25 million. This contract is going to bring in 2.6 versus 2.3. The
Right.
first 2.6 of the 30 million, or of the 20-some million dollar department cost, there's not a need to be concerned, in my opinion, that somehow this money is not being spent for fire services.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. We'll move ahead for receipt to a vote. Further discussion on the consent agenda, Councilmember Rupsis.
Thank you, Mayor. It's actually still on the BUFSA, and again, I don't think we can, Councilmember Dees, change this at this time, so I didn't separate or anything like that, but I just wonder if the contract says we're charging for the BUFSA based on the taxable value, and I just wonder if that's the right way to do it. Outside the city, it seems to be that maybe land area might be, since they don't have the density requirements that the city does, well, now I'm kind of almost talking myself out of it. But it seems like
Please talk
land
yourself
area
out.
is what drives. Yeah, land area is what drives the potential expansion of the BUFSA, right? So if we continue expanding, if the BUFSA expands because we have to cover more and more people just outside the city limits at lower density requirements than we do in the inside, I wonder if land area should be considered the next time we go through this.
Okay, point made. Any other discussion on the motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Me.
Councilmember Shaw?
Just wanted to call out a couple of donations on here, which Deputy Mayor Boyette's usually really good about. I is a donation to the Parks Department from Partners for Parks, about $4,000 for the Patriot Run expenses. Christy Drake already brought up the grant for the trail, and then K is another grant for redevelopment of the Billings Masonic Lodge.
Very good.
Great.
Thank
Great
you.
news.
And we always appreciate those dollars. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. The motion is for approval of the consent agenda in its entirety. In favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item is our regular agenda. Denise, would you please read item number 2?
Professional services contract with A&E Design Incorporated for design services for Amon Recreation Campus. Staff recommends approval.
Very good. I think Mike is our presenter. So go ahead, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as you all know, we brought this forward last week. It got pulled off the agenda because there was a number of questions that had come forward. So over the last week, we've all moved together from administration, Dusty's staff, my staff, to answer all of those questions. And that's why you got the red line version, so that you could see that we had provided answers and what those look like. We also included in there some appendix items, so A and B, so that you can see these additional schedules. And so I'm hoping that we brought you forward enough detail now that provided all the answers.
Very good. Are there questions for Mike or Councilmember Appleiter?
So, just gonna, in full disclosure, we were on the losing side of this request for proposals. I am gonna participate in the vote because I intend to vote yes in the affirmative on this contract when the motion's made. That I just wanted to put that on the record for disclosure.
Very good. Further questions for discussion, or is there a motion relating to this item? Councilmember Joyce and Councilmember Shaw.
I move to approve a professional services contract with A&E Design, Inc. to design services for Amond Recreational Campus as recommended by staff.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Shaw. Discussion on the motion. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilmember Aspleiter, Councilmember Rupsis?
Chris, I appreciate you working through the questions that got raised. I think clarifying some of those issues was necessary, both raised by myself and by Councilwoman Owen. So thank you for pumping the brakes and making sure that we got this right and working through that with A&E. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Rupsis?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to recognize we all got an email from Dusty Eaton this week, with a lot of detail of everything that they've gone through to make this work, and some significant in-kind donations that Dusty and the other firms on the team are making. And so I wanted to recognize that and appreciate that, as well as I thought the comments that were made last week from the collaborative design team were really helpful and encouraging, and I'm really excited that everybody's really pulling together on this thing. It's going to be a great project. I just wanted to recognize everybody that has come together to make it happen.
Very good, thank you. Further discussion on the motion?
Mayor?
Councilmember Neese.
Yeah, I'm gonna voice my opposition to this. I think this is a great concept as far as the campus outlay of this. I look forward to seeing the ice rink go forward. But I am still have my reservations of moving forward on any design on a facility that we don't know who's going to run it, what the operational costs are going to be, and that. So I think that the concept, the general concept, I'm in agreement with that. But until I think we have more details on what this is going to cost to the city and to the taxpayers, I don't think we should move forward on the design of the courts yet. I thought there was support. I'd make a motion to suspend the or hold off on the contract design of the courts until at such time we had a signed MOU to move forward on. But I don't think there's support for that, so I won't make the motion. But I am going to vote in opposition to this.
Okay, very good. Further discussion on the motion. The motion is for approval consistent with the staff recommendation. I'll just comment as the presiding officer. Councilmember Asmoliter raised the issue of his vote. I think technically there is an issue that we need to dig into in the future. In this case, I don't think it's substantive or a problem, but I just want to kind of go on record that I think that is an issue that we should look into in the future. But any other further discussion on the motion? Okay, I see none. We'll move ahead. The motion is for approval of item 2, consistent with the staff recommendation. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Councilmember Neese in the opposition, all other council members voting in favor, so the motion passes. With that concludes item 2, brings us to item number 3. Denise, would you read item number 3?
Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the City and Yellowstone Ice Foundation to establish the parties' commitment to enter into a contract to build an ice facility and necessary infrastructure to Amon Park. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, very good. Chris, were you going to tee this one up?
Yes. However, Mayor, did you want to say anything first relative to some words that you asked for change?
Yeah, I'll and then you can comment. I'll just alert the council. I did not copy the council on emails, but during the week, in paragraph 6, subsection C and D, I believe, it has 2 phrases in there that says the city represents X and the city represents Y. Specifically represents a certain amount of funds will be available. City represents access will always be available. I was concerned that because this is intended to be a non-binding agreement, by using that language about represents, it brings it to a level that might incorrectly cause others to rely on this agreement. And so I raised that issue with Gina. She raised it with the attorney for the Yellowstone Ice. Gina can confirm this, but my understanding is that they thought just changing the word from represents to anticipates, the city anticipates XYZ would be sufficient in those 2 cases. They were good with that. I'm good with that. So I would recommend that be part of the staff proposal here if it isn't already. So Gina, you want to comment on any further on that?
Sure, Mayor. I did speak with Mr. Mercer, who represents Signal Peak and Yellowstone Ice Foundation, and they have there's no objection to replacing the word represents with the word anticipates.
Okay, very good. With that, Chris, I'll back to you.
So with that, I will. I'll try to use the word anticipate in this. So in brief, at a high level, so the memorandum of understanding essentially is trying to is setting us up for ultimately what will be the lease The lease will have many more details in it, but we're not in a position tonight to have those things worked out. That being said, though, it was absolutely critical that the donation and the generosity of Signal Peak, that they were in a position before the end of this calendar year to have something, frankly, by this body and by the city, even though it's in anticipation from versus some guarantee, that we are absolutely working forward in good faith with one another and believe that this project is going to be built. So I'm going to, and all those things we both believe will be the case. In summary, the MOU lays out that Yellowstone Ice, in general terms, will be responsible for raising the funds necessary to build, operate, and maintain the ice facility on this piece of public ground, and that they would lease that from us for essentially nothing, for $1, or very nominally. Second, that the city anticipates providing the infrastructure to that roughly 80,000 square foot site, and that infrastructure includes the parking necessary for it, in addition to the other ideas of the concept of this becoming a campus with hard court, with ice. We'd already exist on turf fields relative to soccer. Maybe one day it will have tennis, water, and other things. So what we're anticipating doing, and we're saying in this, is we're going to put that infrastructure, we're putting that infrastructure in, and that we would anticipate paying for that through South Billings Urban Renewal, the sale of bonds in the Suburra District. And then third piece I would touch on is that there will be, and that construction is our public expense for that infrastructure, including parking. Then ultimately, I think on the operational side, there'll be a reasonable fee structure relative to what will Yellowstone Ice's proportional share of maintaining some of those off-site improvements be, so that we ultimately can pay for and take care of the infrastructure on the site. So that's the gist of the memorandum of understanding. It does anticipate I think it's March 30 completion of the leases themselves. And there's a lot of work being done between the contract that you just approved a couple of minutes ago, between ourselves and Yellowstone Ice and their teams. Both teams have been meeting together to keep this project moving forward. So this is essential tonight, critical to this continued partnership and stepping forward.
Okay, very good. Questions for staff? Councilmember Kennedy, or?
I don't have a question, I'm going to make a motion.
Okay, motion is in order.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the city and Yellowstone Ice Foundation to establish the parties' commitment to enter into a contract to build an ice facility and necessary infrastructure at Amon Park as recommended by staff.
Second by Councilmember Joy. Motion is for approval. Discussion on the motion. Councilmember Kennedy, Councilmember Shaw.
I just wanted to say the
I'm sorry, Councilmember Joy. I apologize.
The memorandum of understanding between the Yellowstone Ice Foundation and the city. It's a public-private partnership that we wanted to see, and that's what we'd like to see at Amen Park. The other thing I'd like to say is that the dollars are coming from the Suburra. It'll be a bonded program. So as people start asking the question, are we building what was on the ballot issue a year ago? We're building portions of it, and it's not going to raise your taxes. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Troy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's been a long time coming, and it's wonderful to see things moving forward. It seems like quite a while ago that the mayor and I went to Denver to tour various facilities and the kinds of arrangements and the way that those are operated and maintained, and the various communities that benefit from recreation facilities. It's been a long time coming, and I just hope it speeds right along and we continue to build out the campus. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Owen.
Thanks. Just very briefly, first of all, I want to say a huge thank you to Signal Peak for the leadership and the vision in committing this to the community. What a tremendous way to approach workforce development. Very, very grateful for your partnership here. I think we all know there's a lot to still be worked out, but I would make a request as we move towards the lease, sort of in line with what the mayor has said. I'm concerned about representations of the sufficiency of parking, because the sufficiency of parking is going to be hotly debated, and quite frankly, we'll rest largely on how we schedule and program that entire campus. And so I would just ask that as we move towards the lease, that we not make qualitative representations about parking and leave them quantitative, because I think, quite frankly, adequate parking and the traffic issues that we just have to solve. It's not a showstopper, but they have to be solved. We should try to avoid any kind of qualitative representation on that. Otherwise, tremendously exciting, and huge thanks to everybody who's moved this forward today. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Abschlager?
My firm is a sub-consultant to collaborative design on this ICE facility, so I will be recusing myself from the vote.
Very good. Thank you. Duly
Mayor?
noted. Other discussion. Councilmember Nees?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to support this motion. I think this is a good start to getting this rolling. Again, this is something I think the Amen courts should have before we start moving on this. But with this we have it. And again, as was mentioned, this is really the beginning of the legal contract that we're going to be signing, and that's going to be very important because the details are there. And so the devils are in the detail. As Councilmember Kennedy said, we want to make sure that contract indicates that there's no cost to the taxpayers. And so things like, as City Administrator Kukulski mentioned, the parking lot, making sure there's sufficient funds and fees there, sinking funds to make sure that stuff is maintained, not just for the parking infrastructure, but for the facility itself. If we look at the Centennial Ring today, I hear often that how it's just hanging on. That facility's been around for a very long time, and they've done a great job of trying to keep that running. But somewhere along the line, it wasn't maintained along the line to be able to be updated or renovated or made to where it could really be a very good, usable, continued facility. And maybe it just outgrew it, but I do know that we want to make sure that whatever we set up in this lease is going to make sure that this facility will last a very long time, and financially as some of the other public-private partnerships we have. And including and I point to the last, I guess on page 1, the last line on page 5, it talks about the obligations for repair, restoration, and damaged premises. So that's very important that we make sure that this organization is solvent. I would like to also make sure that we're seeing financials on this periodically from time to time. So that's part of that lease agreement to make sure we can see those financials to make sure they are solvent. And have an annual report from them to see how things are going. I think that's just going to build that organization's trust throughout the whole community when they're reporting to the taxpayers using taxpayers' land, that they're taking great care of that facility, like we hear from Amen Park, like we hear from Park 3. So I will support this. I think this is a great start to see, and it's a great model, I think, that for the future facilities that are going in that campus there. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on the motion? I'll just second what's already been said, which is to express our appreciation to Signal Peak. We would not be here if it were not for that very generous commitment. I think it's a great model, not just for the ICE facility, but for other potential facilities involving public partnership, public-private partnership. But I want to remind us all that this is not the end of the effort to find dollars. This is just the beginning. We've got a great start with Signal Peak's contribution and the Sabura TIF district, but none of these facilities are going to be able to be built out without additional private contributions. So don't count your chickens until they're hatched. These eggs are being well incubated, but they are not hatched. And they're going to need plenty of heat from a few other donations, so please be generous. And then lastly, speaking of generosity, I just want to express appreciation in the expectation that the hoteliers will be able to contribute significantly to the operation costs. These things do not pay for themselves, and it's going to be critical that the Tourism Business Improvement District, made up of our hoteliers that voluntarily assess themselves by the room night, contribute to these O&M costs. This project is going to bring millions of dollars of economic activity to our community, and that's just great for our community, but we do appreciate what I anticipate will be a commitment by the hoteliers that has not been made yet. I don't want to be presumptuous, but that's my hope and expectation. Anything further before we proceed to a vote on item number 3? Councilor Nace?
Mayor, clarification, was the motion made with accepting your recommendations?
Yes, the motion was made by Councilmember Kennedy, seconded by Councilmember Joy.
But with your clarification of language.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's my understanding that was part of the staff recommendation. But we'll get full clarity from Councilmember Kennedy. He gives a thumbs up, and Councilmember Joy as well. So thank you for getting that clarification. Any further discussion on item number 3 and the motion? Seeing none, if in favor of the motion for approval with the staff recommendation that included the change I mentioned at the beginning, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. That concludes item number 3 and our regular agenda items. Is there any public comment on items not on our agenda tonight? If so, please go to the podium and just ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Any public comment on items not on our agenda? Don't see anybody moving forward, so we'll close that public comment period. Council initiatives. Councilmember Aspenleiter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, kind of given all of the conversations we've been having, just want to make council aware that I intend, after the first of the year, to bring an initiative forward for us to consider reducing the size of the city council from 11 to 7. I'll be working with Councilwoman Shaw on that. I'm happy to have that participation with others. I know Councilwoman Owen has commented on that as well. So everybody is welcome to join in that party, and look forward to bringing that forward after the first of the year.
Thank you, Councilmember Aspenleiter. My only question for you is, if we're successful in that, can I be the first to leave?
Not until after I get it.
Okay. With that, nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you.
This is what I was going to say.
Okay.